folks, welcome back. MTG Burgeoning here, and welcome to Kitchen Table Friday. This is where we continue our series of kitchen table decks from which I have had some success in the past. Sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're fair, sometimes they're not fun, and sometimes, well, they're very not fair. But today is a treat because today is a fun deck. It's going to look like it's pretty janky, but I guarantee when all the pieces to the puzzle are put together, the landscape is fantastic. So, if you've been following with our kitchen table series, you know that we've already run through all monocolor decks, white through green. If you need to catch up, you can click on any of the links below in the description. With white, blue, black, red, and green, now we move to the multicolored decks, and our first stop is white-blue. So here today we have a very nice Azorius Sphinx deck. All Sphinxes all the time, white-blue Azorius. Let's get going. Let's start with the lands. So white-blue, we've got 6 plains. We've got 6 islands. We've got 4 copies of Port Town. Now, if you're not familiar with Port Town is one of a cycle of cards from Shadows over Innistrad that if you control a specific basic land card in your hand, you can reveal it, and then this land would come into play untapped. So if we have an island or a plains, we would show it from our hand, and then we can play Port Town, and it enters the battlefield untapped. If not, then it comes into play as an Azorius Guildgate. So we have 4 copies of Port Town. On top of those copies of Port Town, we have 4 copies of Glacial Fortress. The Azorius check land comes into play tapped unless we control a plains or an island. 4 copies. So that's 8 copies of lands that are dependent on plains and islands. We've got 6 islands here and 6 plains there. So let's increase those by playing 2 copies of Hallowed Fountain. The Azorius Shock land comes into play tapped unless we pay 2 life. If we don't, it comes into play tapped. If we do, it comes into play untapped. The other point to make is that these are plains island. So, for the purposes of our Glacial Fortress, and for the purposes of our Port Town, we can show a Hallowed Fountain for Port Town to come into play untapped, and if we have a Hallowed Fountain in play, Glacial Fortress comes into play untapped as well. In a perfect world, I would eliminate an island and a plains for 2 more copies of Hallowed Fountain. Alas, I do not have any available copies other than the 2 in this deck. So, for the time being, 2 copies of Hallowed Fountain, but please be aware, if 2 copies become available, 1 island comes out, 1 plains comes out. And for those of you keeping track at home, that is 22 lands. Alright, so with 22 lands, let's take a look at the artifact ramp. And we're going to start that with good old trusty Soul Ring. For 1, you get 2. You know how it works. Soul Ring is in. And the Pillar of Origins. So the Pillar of Origins is from Ixalan. It's an uncommon, and when it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. And then we can tap this artifact to add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool, only to be spent to cast a creature spell of the chosen type. So clearly we would pick Sphinxes, and this would give us a white or a blue. 4 copies of Pillar of Origins. I'm sorry, 3 copies of Pillar of Origins. That's right, so we got the 1 Soul Ring, the 3 Pillar of Origins, and that leaves us with 4 Azorius Signets. Tap 2 comes into play. You can tap 1 and tap it for white and a blue. 4 copies of Azorius Signet. So that's 8 mana rocks to go with our 22 lands, giving us a total of 30 pieces of mana. 30 cards of mana, because Sphinxes ain't cheap, y'all. They are not cheap. To go one step further, we have 2 spells in the deck to help reduce the cost of all of our Sphinxes. And the first is Urza's Incubator. For 3, when this enters the battlefield, we choose a creature type, and clearly we're going to choose Sphinxes. And then creature spells of the chosen type cost 2 less to cast. So each of our Sphinxes would be 2 colorless less to cast. And in addition to Urza's Incubator, we have 1 copy of Herald's Horn. Again, when this enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creature spells of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast, so this is going to help us reduce the cost of all of our Sphinxes. Then at the beginning of our upkeep, we can look at the top card of our library. If it's a creature card of the chosen type, we may reveal it and put it into our hand. So if we're lucky off the top of our deck, we can reveal a Sphinx, put it into our hand, and then still draw a card for our step, for our turn. Urza's Incubator and Herald's Horn in the Sphinx deck. And before we move on to the tribe of Sphinxes we're carrying in this deck, let's move to our pieces of removal, because with this being a deck that's possibly going to stumble out of the gates on occasion, we're going to need some removal to make sure we can stay in the game until we can get some of our big winged biggins out there. And to do so, we're going to be packing some Swords to Plowshares. Instant spell, 1 white, exile target creature. Its controller gains life to its power. In our deck, that's not going to be a problem. Like I said, we got big winged Sphinxes flying all over the battlefield. 4 copies, Swords to Plowshares. Nature's Chant is 1 and a white. Don't let that green confuse you. This is a 1 and a white. We got no Selesnya going on in this deck, folks. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. 2 copies. And then lastly, one of the best board wipes in white, Day of Judgment, destroy all creatures. If they became available, I would replace the 2 copies of Day of Judgment with 2 copies of Wrath of God, just in case there may be any regeneration shenanigans going on. That may be more of a meta group dependency, because regeneration is not very popular amongst Magic players, but still, if 2 available copies of Wrath of God came across my table, I would swap those in and take out the 2 copies of Day of Judgment. And there are our 8 pieces of removal. So there we have our lands, we have our artifact ramp, we have our reduction costs and our removal. Now let's meet our Sphinxes. And our first play set of Sphinxes is the Sphinx of Foresight. For 2 and 2 blue, we get a 4/4 flyer that we can scry 1 at the beginning of our upkeep. However, and this is its true value, we may reveal this card from our opening hand, and if you do, scry 3 at the beginning of your first upkeep. That is extremely powerful. And that alone, only for 2 and 2 blue and a 4/4 flyer, those are some great stats across the board. Sphinx of Foresight, 4 copies. Next up, and this one is a mythic, as most of the Sphinxes in this deck are, coming all the way from Hour of Devastation, we have Unish, the Cryo-Sphinx Sovereign. For 4 and 2 blue, another 4/4 flyer. However, Sphinx spells we cast cost 2 less to cast. And whenever Unish, Cryo-Sphinx Sovereign, or another Sphinx enters the battlefield under our control, reveal the top 4 cards of our library. An opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. We put 1 into our hand and the other into our graveyard. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Until a recent Sphinx was printed, a so-called, one of the best Sphinxes ever printed back in Theros Beyond Death. Before he came along, I would have told you Unish was probably the best Sphinx ever printed. Boy, was I wrong, and we're going to see why very soon. 4 copies, Unish, the Cryo-Sphinx Sovereign. All Right, and our next Sphinx comes from Return to Ravnica and is another mythic rare. Here we have Asperia, the Supreme Judge. For 2 white, and 2 blue, we have a 6/4 flyer, and whenever a creature attacks us or a planeswalker we control, we don't have any planeswalkers, so it's just us, we may draw a card. Notice that it doesn't say non-token creature or creature with flying. Any creature that attacks us, we're drawing a card. And it's may draw a card. So if we get down in our library and there are more creatures attacking and we got a ton of life, we don't have to worry about drawing out. 4 copies of Asperia Supreme Judge. Keeping the mythic Sphinx train rolling, we go to Rivals of Ixalan for Azor the Lawbringer. For 2 white, and 2 blue, here we have a 6/6 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield, each opponent can't cast instant or sorcery spells during that player's next turn. So in a lot of ways, that's going to negate any kind of sorcery removal that they might have for our Sphinxes. Additionally, whenever Azor attacks, we may pay X, a white, and 2 blue, and if we do, we gain X life and draw X cards. That last ability may seem familiar. That's because it is. That's Sphinx's Revelation on a Sphinx. That's just wonderful. 4 copies, Azor the Lawbringer. And lastly, we come to what is not only, in my opinion, the most powerful Sphinx ever printed. This may be one of the most powerful creatures ever printed. From Theros Beyond Death, Dream Trawler. Let's just take a look at all of the text on Dream Trawler. For 2 white, and 2 blue, we had a 3/5 flying lifelinker. Whenever we draw a card, Dream Trawler gets +1/+0 till end of turn. So the turn after we cast this, we're thinking of it as being at least a 4/5. Whenever it attacks, we draw a card. So we move to combat. It attacks, we draw a card, it becomes a 5/5 flying lifelinker. We can discard a card, and Dream Trawler gains hexproof until end of turn, and tap it. So as long as we have a fistful of cards, which shouldn't be difficult to do, we can stop all spot removal. Dream Trawler will never be removed from spot removal as long as we keep discarding cards. Amazing creature, amazingly powerful. This is the game breaker. This is the showstopper. This is the curtain caller. The Dream Trawler is our closer. 4 copies. And Burgeonites, that is MTG Burgeoning's Kitchen Table Series, Azorius Sphinxes. You saw the deck tech. Now, let's take a look at some play testing. Alright folks, Burgeonites, you saw the Azorius Sphinx deck tech. So now let's put it all together, get all the pieces to the puzzle, all 60 of them. Let's throw them into the deck, let's shuffle it up, let's play test it, and let's see if what we're talking about in the deck tech can translate into gameplay. With all of the ramp we have in this deck and the immense cost of our Sphinxes, we're hoping that by turn 4 we can be threatening, which, let's be honest, is a little slow for a kitchen table deck, but we have some removal in here as well. So let's give it a whirl and let's see what we can come up with. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, here we go. Port Town, great land to start. Alright, there is Unesh, so if we can get that into play. Okay, there's some removal. We're going to scry 1 at the beginning of our turn, Asperia, and Pillar of Origins. Okay, great start. So we keep, we reveal, we scry, we keep that right there. Put this back into our hand. Turn 1, we will reveal an island so that we can play Port Town. Bring that baby back, draw a card. Here's turn 2. Play an island. We're going to tap 2. We'll cast Pillar of Origins. We're going to cast that for, we're going to name that for Sphinxes. And look at that, turn 3, we're going to be able to cast a Sphinx. Fantastic. We'll draw a card. Oh, the Dream Trawler, the Dream Trawler. Get that guy right in the front. Going to play land. We'll tap 4. We're going to cast the Sphinx of Foresight. Turn 3, we got a Sphinx in play. Pretty darn good. Okay, we're going to untap. Turn 4, Scry trigger. We're going to put that right there so that we can draw it. Draw a card. I think it's safe to assume that by turn 4, we would need to Swords to Plowshare something. So let's cast that, get it out of our hands, and say that we Swords to Plowshare something. All right, so let's untap. Let's move to turn 5, and let's scry 1. Oh, Wrath of God. You know what? Let's put that on the bottom, because we are looking for a white mana source. So we draw a card. Oh, an island. Okay, not terrible. Not terrible. So we'll tap for 6. And let's see. We are going to play Unesh. I think we kind of have to. Cast Unesh. There he is. He's in play. So now our Sphinxes cost 2 less. And whenever he or another Sphinx enters the battlefield under our control, we reveal the top 4 cards of our library. An opponent separates those cards into 2 piles. One goes into our hand and the other into our graveyard. No opponent is here. 2, 3, 4. So let's see what the 4 cards would have been. Alright, so it's pretty sure that we're definitely going to be grabbing a Glacial Fortress. Even if they put them like this, I'm probably going to take the lands. So let's say that the opponent would make that choice. They can have those go to the graveyard. We'll draw these. We'll play land for turn. We'll move to turn 6. We'll untap. We got all the mana we need. We draw our card for turn. Perfect Swords to Plowshares. Play a Glacial Fortress. We're going to tap white, white, 2 blue. There goes our Dream Trawler. And we're going to tap 2 white and 2 blue again. And there goes Asperia. And with 4 Sphinxes in play by turn 6, 3 of which are converted mana cost 6 or more, I think we did a good job on this play test here. I'm pretty happy with that. So let's make sure it's not a fluke. Let's shuffle it up and let's do it again. Okay, here we go. Playtest number 2. First round went very nice and smooth. I was not disappointed by that at all. Opening hand, Scry trigger. Turn 3, we get a Sphinx in play. Unesh after that, and a couple of big uns. Yeah, that worked out pretty darn well. So, let's do it again. Azorius Sphinxes, Kitchen Table Deck Tech number 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's number 7. There he is. Very good. Got some removal. Asperia. Oh, come on. Let's see some lands. Oh, don't do this to us. Oh, no. Ooh. That's definitely a mulligan. Can't even play around with that. One more land and I would have thought about it, especially with a Signet in hand. But that's what happens. So we'll draw 7. Hopefully there'll be 7 good ones, or at least 6 good ones. We'll toss one back. And we'll try again. Jeez, that was a brutal, brutal opening hand. Thank goodness for mulligans, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. There's our land. Yeah, perfect. Azor, a Glacial Fortress. Alright, that's a lot of lands. Swords to Plowshares, and blah, we're kind of landlocked here. Alright, you know what we're going to do? Let us... Alright, we're going to put one back. Let's put back the Glacial Fortress. We'll keep this. We got 3 lands. Alright, let's try it. You know, and it might have been tempting to keep that first hand, even though we had the opening hand scry ability. But if we keep a hand like that with a land that comes into play, tap, not that we have a ton of 1 CMC cards in our deck, But if we don't get a land off that scry trigger and we're stuck, we're toast. We can't afford to get stuck in a deck like this, because we'll get swarmed and swarmed quickly. All right. Hand of 6. We're going to keep it. We're going to see how it goes. Turn number 1. We draw. We show a plains. We play a port town, leaving it open, of course. Turn 2. Let's get some ramp, baby. Oh, darn. That would have been better in our opening hand. We'll show the plains again. Play another port town. Turn 3. There's some ramp. That's what we're talking about. Let's tap 2. And we'll cast an Azorius Signet. Alright, so next turn we're bringing out a Sphinx. We just don't know which one yet. I think, honestly, I do think by turn 3 we most likely would have needed to Swords to Plowshare something. Let's get that out of our hand, just because it seems reasonable that there would have been a threat we needed to get rid of. Here we go, turn 4, draw a card. Perfect. Glacial Fortress coming into play. And we're going to tap our Signet for 2, 3, 4, and we'll cast our Sphinx of Foresight. Alright, so we untap. We move to turn 5. And most likely Unish is coming. Oh, that's beautiful to see a Swords to Plowshares right there. Alright, so let's do it. Oh, we forgot to miss our scry trigger. Well, that doesn't matter because we would have took the land anyways. Usually I have a marker up there to remind me. Tap 6 and we'll cast Unish. Okay, and again with no opponent here, we can try to pick and choose what an opponent might keep in one hand. Oh boy, look at this. What a treasure trove of cards right here. If it were me, I'm splitting it up like this. If I'm the opponent, I'm putting 3 here, and I'm putting the Dream Trawler here. And you know what? I'm taking the Dream Trawler. The rest can go to the graveyard. Alright, and there we go, folks. Next turn, we untap. We've got 6 mana, but we only need to tap 4 to cast one of our Sphinxes. So we draw a card. Pillar of Origin. That's great. We're going to tap 2. We'll cast the Pillar of Origins for Sphinxes. We're going to tap that for a blue. Then we'll tap these 3 for a total of 4. And we'll cast our Dream Trawler. And we still have a land open to cast a Swords to Plowshares. And here we are, turn 6. 3 Sphinxes in play. Pretty good. Pretty good hand considering that we had to muck the first one with a mulligan. Not as impressively sharp as the first go-around, but that was still pretty good, all things considered. Well, let's try it a third time. Okay, so let's complete our hat trick of playtesting. We got Azorius Sphinxes here, folks. Burgeonites. Azorius Sphinxes. Kitchen Table Series number 6. Our first dual-colored kitchen table deck. And of course you can always click the link below to see any of the kitchen table series deck techs you may have missed in the past. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, here we go. Burgeonites. Port Town. Unish. Oh, come on. Okay, that's a good scry trigger. Just give us a land. Come on. Oh, not that land. Oh, risky, risky, risky. Oh, boy. I don't want to keep this, but I'm going to do it just to see, because let's try it out. We talked about it during our second play testing about keeping an iffy hand with an opening hand scry trigger. Let's try it and see. So there he is. So we can scry at the beginning of our first upkeep. Put this baby back into our hand. We scry. We put that on the bottom. Now let's see if this is going to be helpful. Basic land. Oh, nice. Show a plains. Play a port town. Turn 1. Turn 2, we draw a card. Oh, beautiful. We show a plains. We play that port town. Put the planes back in our hand. We tap 2, and we cast a Pillar of Origins for Sphinxes. Okay, next turn. Turn number 3. We draw planes, play planes, 3, 4, Sphinx of Foresight. It's working out so well. So far, so good, folks. Here we go. Turn number 4. We draw. Oh, beautiful. That is going to be great. We're going to tap 2 planes. We're going to cast the Signet. And I think it's safe to assume that by turn 4, there might be some artifact or enchantment causing some disrepair to the board. So we'll cast that, get it out of our hand. All right. So we untap. We move to turn 5. Draw our card. We got Asperia. We're going to play this planes. Let's grab this planes to activate our Azorius Signet, which will tap that and the pillar for 3. And then we'll go here for 6. And turn 5, and we're going to cast Unish. And again, we don't have an opponent, but let's check those top 4 cards. 2, 3, 4. And what do we got? Oh, we've got a game. We got a game because the opponent is most certainly just going to pull one of these. There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to get at least a Dream Trawler. So we'll take the one with the Glacial Fortress. We'll bring that to our hand. We'll pass the turn to turn 6. We're going to untap the Gob of Mana and a reducing our cost reduction on our creatures. We'll play a Glacial Fortress, and we're going to tap this for 3, 4, and there goes a Dream Trawler. And let's tap the rest for another 4. Let's play a Zor out there, so the next time we attack, we can tap all of this mana to gain some life and refill our hand. And that's turn 6, and we got 4 biggins on the battlefield. These Azorius Sphinxes are looking pretty strong, aren't they? Let's try one last time and see exactly if they can mimic and continue with this strength. All right, this is our very last playtest with our Azorius Sphinxes here. Last one, the first one and the third one have been the strongest, and the second was not bad either. And each of the last 2 times, we've had questionable opening hands, but we made it work the last time, even though we kept a hand that, let's be honest, we risked it for the biscuit that time, folks. All right, last playtest. Let's see if we can get a little further dominance. There's still some cards in here we just haven't drawn yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's grab our pinky die. All right, what do we got here? Asperia. Island. Okay, there we go. Like to see that. Ooh, board wipe. Come on. Yep. This is going to be a great hand. We'll hold on to this hand. We will reveal our Sphinx of Foresight, and we'll get our Scry. Oh, we'll just keep that right there. Oh, baby. Remember how I said there were some cards we just haven't drawn yet? Well, there's one of them. Let's show our opponents an island, and let's play a Port Town. Bring the island back. Let's tap that. Let's cast a Soul Ring. Let's tap the Soul Ring and throw out an Azorius Signet. Oh, boy. Excellent. And that's all turn 1. Turn 2. Come on. What are you getting? Okay, we'll play an island. We got 5 mana here. What do we do? Let's put the Sphinx of Foresight out there. That's turn 2 play. Not a bad play at all. I understand we still have that, but it was only turn 2. Let's hold on to that baby in case we need it later. Turn 3, Scry 1. Oh, we draw him. We draw Asperia. And we will tap this for 3, 6. We cast Unish. Turn 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn 3 we cast. And look at this. Oh my goodness. How does the opponent separate this? Well, if it were me, boy oh boy, I'm not sure what I would do. Maybe something that looked like this to try to make it less tempting to grab the Dream Trawler. Because the Dream Trawler is lights out. So you know what? What's in our hand? Day of Judgment and then Asperia. I would go with these three. We'll sacrifice the Dream Trawler for this turn. Let's get some bulk into our hand. It's only turn 3, and look at the power we already have on the board with 2/4/4 flyers. Let's give this a whirl and see, folks. Let's just give it a whirl. All right. Let's untap. Turn 4. We draw a card, and there's an Azor the Lawbringer. We'll play an island. And let's see what we want to do here. We can tap for a total of 7. So we can play 2 more Sphinxes. I think we should do that. So let's certainly get... Yeah, let's do that. Let's get... Tap for 6. 4 will cast Azor so that we can refill our hand, and another Sphinx of Foresight. And I think I missed my scry trigger. See? Marker. Marker. And that's turn 4, folks. And we still got a couple of Asperias in our hand, and we have another Unish. So even if we needed to cast the Unish, have it die to the legend rule, can't stop us. That was turn 4. Look at the Sphinxes we got into play on turn 4. Grab that Soul Ring. That was what I was talking about. That was one of the cards that we just did not want to draw. Didn't see the shock lands at all. Let's see. Anything else that we didn't get? Seemed like it was a pretty good mix. Herald's Horn didn't draw that once at all. Urza's Incubator. So even missing some of the vital ramp, we still were between turns 4 and 6. We were ready to rock, baby. This is MTG Burgeoning. This is the Kitchen Table Series, Azorius Sphinxes. Thank you for clicking in. Thank you for viewing. Be good to yourselves and each other. Burgeoning out. Want to become a Pack Wars combatant? 4 easy steps. Step number 1. Click on the link below in the description or go to www.buymeacoffee.com/MTGBurgeoning. Step number 2. Select either membership or support. Membership will enroll you into Pack Wars for $5 each month. Support will cost $5 for 1 month. Step number 3, complete payment information. The name you use will appear on the site. Use your real name, use your YouTube handle, or use no name at all and be anonymous. Be sure to include your email address in the information. Step number 4, most importantly, prepare for war.